Okay, had to eat some lunch, walk the dog, have a snack. So we're back. So we have what looks just like rough blanks on one end and finished bottoms on the other. I wish that I had I found a dry antler notcher and breezed through the other three. This first one was kind of a bare, kind of mushy, and so these went really smoothly though. So let's pick one now and continue. This one was a little crunchy, and that's kind of interesting in how wild it is at this stage. So on a lot of these sites, there's broken artifacts found in burnt rock middens, and there's generally mixing between cultures, and there's some burned artifacts and broken bases and a lot of napping debris near there. So, but there's enough discrete areas that have been looked at where there's a lot of materials that are in collections and laboratories and museums that you can sort out the hard hammer flakes from the later punch flakes. And there's a range of variability, but more work needs to be done because a lot of this stuff can be figured out. So let's pick this one, I guess, and punch on it. We'll save one of these for an example, and then I'll finish it later. But let's say let's take this one down. See how my punch is getting a little orange in there? It's wearing down and it's getting punky, so I ground it. It's going to be okay for the early work, but I've used this thing so much. It's getting to the point now where you have to favor one side or the other, and or just save it for early work. And then as I work it down, then I'll switch to this moose punch. And I need to make some new tools, so. So the good news is I have this thinness on the shoulders, so I can just tack it from the ends, right? Thinning from the ends will give me good ridges to run flakes and do a lot more thinning than if I just, started down here in the middle and worked my way up. So it's generally how I like to go about it. And I could do hammerstone work on this too, but I think it's fun to show the power of the punch in this early work. And if I go about this sort of aggressive and careless for a lot of this early work, it doesn't. That's some thick cortex up there. It doesn't really matter. I'll have to really tighten up as I start finishing and thinning and making contours, but at this stage it can be pretty variable. Well, this cortex is really thick. I just ground this punch and I'm sort of getting used to it. I'll get more comfortable here in a minute. Taking the square edge down. I like to look at the broken tips and areas where you can see they're setting up little platforms in the later stage, just isolating and really doing some aggressive work on some very mean material. I know what I need is my glasses. There, I can see better. I could see great until a couple years ago. to switch out of this punch sooner than later. I'm not liking the punkiness of that middle section. Learning how to change angles and modify edges because your tool changes a little bit is an advantage to, or I mean, it can be a disadvantage or advantage. You can learn more about how you need to change the edges because of the tool, rather than if you had just a standard cylinder hardened copper that you're used to and you just put new ones in all the time. You wouldn't have to do that. Hopefully I'm in middle frame. The sun kind of went away a little bit. It's more cloudy. Yeah, see how this is chewing? Let's throw the little punch in there and just eat this thing up. This choke cherry limb has got a teeny bit of a bend to it. So I get it on my leg kind of how I want it, and then I look at the punch and I decide what's a good spot. Let's try it like this. And we'll have to decide how far to go with this for our little examples. Hopefully that's in the middle of the frame. A little cortexy, but yeah, this is a lot better. Working up and then finding a little ridge. Some of these I like to leave on standby down here. So as I come down and I need to clean stuff up, I've got different options for deciding which one to take first. Because I might end up somewhere here. I need that. If I mess up a flake here, I might need that strength. So this area, at this stage, I just kind of, I want it to be not too clunky, but leave myself options and give more preference to the tip in the middle. If a flake steps on a flat surface at that point, as you're moving an edge, it doesn't matter because you can quickly recover from the other side. Some of this goes pretty fast and then it slows down trying to finish. I looked at it and decided I needed to move my edge a little bit more. Something to think about is these things could already be in a rudimentary handle. All right, you're putting a base on, and then you get your handle in there, wedged in there, and maybe just fixed a little bit, shimmed in there good. And then had somebody hold it on a different support and you just had to manage the punch, you could get some really interesting energy into some of this stuff. When you make thin stuff, you can't just decide I'm going to be thin and I'm just going to random around on the edge until I get thin. You have to know what the flakes are going to do to a certain point, especially when you get close to timing it for that major thinning. You can't just not have your edges right and your tool placement right and your energy right, and then just cross your fingers and try to chip something thin. This is going to be a big honkin' Montell if it finishes. Maybe move up a little bit more. Ridge. See, I just trimmed up to that. Hopefully this doesn't wrap that back edge too bad. Nope, did well. I was worried about that. I was supporting it in a way that I didn't want to encourage that thing to just spread too far at the back edge. What's fun about these different systems is that you can apply it to different projects. This type of floating shaft punch, you can do a lot of different point types with it. You just have to modify your notches and your strategies and your angles a little bit. It doesn't take 30 years to be able to do this. It just takes a few years with the tool and not giving up. That cortex is not as soft as some of this usually is. Take a little bit of this off. Okay, that did okay. Now I've got this here. Positioning platform. Have to do a little grinding to do that shaping of the platform. Sometimes you have to do those little abrasions just to get those little setup flakes. And you move over, isolate, grind, spur, support, and that should go down to here. Grinding keeps my platform from cracking. That one cracked just a little bit, but it held together enough. It's really weird how these things end up so clunky, and then your thickest point ends up being right here at your ears when you're done. Or I mean your lobes of your bass. Generally when I break stuff, it's doing those trimming flakes off heavy areas, and I just get careless. Generally not on those really inward loaded platforms. Can I get through this underneath that? This is kind of a hard area. It's probably not a great idea to do that, because that one loading in to do that, I might get a... So let's do a little trimming over here first. Okay. And contour's a little nicer for this one now. I'm wearing a little notch in that punch. I'm going to address it at some point. Forcing that flake through there and the hardness of that material, it was getting a little wavy in there. I'll turn back this way. Be a little bit of a bump. That's a hard area on the edge. I ought to be able to come through there and catch that, though. We'll have to address that pretty soon. Yeah, that clipped my platform. See, I'm wearing a mouth there. This is a harder piece of ripper than the one I worked the other day, so it's wearing a little mouth. And that mouth will, as I'm loaded in and I hit, the little mouth is clipping the top of the platform short. So it's robbing me of the inward because I'm wearing a slight concave area. So I can turn the punch. But I think at this stage, I'm liking the curve, so I'm just going to give it a little file. And we'll do a few more flakes, and then we'll set this down for another pause in the process. Probably at 15 minutes already. I'm being a little bit too non-aggressive on this. A Montell guy would have gotten some bigger flakes and lost the game of whatever campfire game is they play, where if you break it, you lose something. Oops. I didn't have a comfy spot there. Boy, that is tough in there. I need to really get a good flake here. Wowzers. That is some hard stuff. I got a nice flake, and I'm going to need another good one right there. The stress on these things, the raw flint, they're stressing, but their support is right, is really telling on this stuff. These things will take a beating if the support is right. That one got across, but I didn't get as deep as I wanted. See that little platform? It has to be turned just perfect. There. That thinned down on our notch right. So that might be on the finished piece. I get a couple more over here. I'm glad I did this one first, because this is going to probably be the toughest rock in the bunch. A little too much back edge support. I did not think that flake was going to do that. I think we have just enough to rebound from that. Well, it's good. I mean, I said I needed to be more Montell-like. I can take this pullover off now because I got more hair on my chest. That's why we chip raw rock, right? We want to be tough. Just kidding. I've got opportunities now where I'm just doing contouring and building bridges. I'm going to have a flake there. I've got to smooth this back and then come back because I have this plane here. So I just need to feel the finished point in the rock, and it's going to be a pretty flat point, so I need some subtle contours now. The Montell I filmed yesterday just fell out of the rock. It's too bad it wasn't in frame. Well, that was inside, and the halogen light was sort of annoying. Contouring. These crystally light areas are kind of tough. Boy, that is tearing tough. See the stress on those flakes on the raw chert? You can tell, if you work enough rock and then you look at the signatures of stress, especially at certain thicknesses, some of that can be induced by bending, right? But with good support and you have that even stress, you know that they're just powering through the hard rock. Let's try to get some contours and clean this face up. We need to move our tip over a little bit. We need to move over just a little bit again. This is not organized, but I think I can get a pretty nice Montell out of this. There's a little stubborn area right here. I need to move my tip over a little bit more. The finer punch is probably in order pretty soon. We'll go to the end of this punch and then we'll set it down. I could make these platforms with direct percussion and hit them some of the time, but that pressure and the fine isolation and the accuracy and the speeds that I would need to do this wouldn't be casual. It'd be pretty awful. So a couple more. Those little bitty flakes that I'm doing with the punch, some of these are pretty crucial, even though it looks like I'm not giving it a whole lot of thought. I hope that this doesn't run into that little... I hope I can get up here in a corner and just kind of get a little flake to go down that ridge. Oh, it didn't. It kind of lost energy into that. Now, it's not a big deal, but I hate stuff like that, so I'm going to have to try to come up next to it and do some cleaning. This light area here, this crystally light area is just a tough problem. I got through, but it stopped. I've got quite a bit of width on this ear. These can be really pressure flake down and pointy. So I might have an opportunity to come in with a little bit of pressure and come in here and get one through there. Now you get target fixation on a bad spot and you turn your edges, you can mess up, so knowing when to give up is part of it too. So a little flake here. I don't really like how I'm wearing high there. I want a different spot on my punch for this platform. There, this ought to be good. There's not a lot of room for error on this one because I'm close to that overshot. But I want to clean into this, and I need that flake. I don't want to pry my ear off. Uh-oh. I got a tiny little flake. I have just a tiny bit of room in there to try again. And if I break it, there's a tiny high spot on that platform, but we'll see. Golly. I don't want to go. I should have ground that facet on there. Can I get it with that tiny little spot? Yes. Oh man. That helped me so much. I'm at a window where I need everything else to go well, but that got me an option now to fix this and then my edges, and then trim those ears down a little bit and make a pointier. Nice. That's a good stopping point. So this is giant. I need to get some more flakes just to go to the middle and dress up my punch, and then, but we'll leave this for stage. We're kind of really far here. But maybe this will end up going in somewhere later into the set. That was a rock probably when I started punching on it. I would have bailed and made a Pedernales. But it is what it is. I think I can shape that up okay. Hopefully everything's in frame.